I'm Kelly Siegel, and this is Harder Than Life, a podcast about self-love, self-awareness, business, and health. We tell outrageous stories and boil everything down to simple, practical advice you can start using today. Let's get living. Welcome back to the Harder Than Life show. I can't believe I get to do this. I get to have incredibly vulnerable conversations with beautiful badasses. Today, Kate Callie is a hypnotherapist, body language expert, and face reading practitioner. Oh, and by the way, she happens to have a Mastery for Men class that is out of this world. Visit Kate Callie, spelled KATEKALI.com, for all of her classes. In doing show prep, I find myself going down a rabbit of a whole content that was full of love and softness. This is going to be electric. Let's vibe, my dear.
Amazing. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
So there's tremendous depth and diversity to you. What is your main claim to fame, and how did you arrive here? What and lastly, I just saw this little tidbit. What inspired you to start this work in high school?
In high school. So I had a realization when I was 14. I was laying in bed and a family member was actually struggling with a potentially terminal illness. And I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, oh, well, the body can heal itself. And so I started studying energy healing of all things. And I knew then that was like my path and my mission. And I studied all around the US and I started seeing clients when I was 16. So that was my high school job. So I kind of started in the ethereal realm. Like I wasn't even touching bodies. It was just going into a room when I was 16 on the weekends. And I just learned how to do that. And it kind of just progressed from there. Then I got really into somatic body work. So I started studying how trauma is held in the body. And that was my first business. Well, that was, I guess, technically my second business when I was 19, is I was actually releasing trauma from the body. So I went from the ethereal into the body. And then my next step after that was hypnotherapy, which I love because that's like the mind. And that's like where we get really into, the subconscious and where the patterns are held. And somehow, I think it was TikTok was the reason I started working with men. I've always loved men. I love dating. I love sex. I love touch. I love relationships. I love love. I love all the things. And I was just noticing how, there's such a weird, I'm sure you can speak to it even better than I can, but there's a weird dynamic going on with men right now with the Me Too movement and, even feminism and different things where men are confused and there's a lot of highly sensitive men that don't know they're highly sensitive. And I started speaking about it on TikTok and it blew up. And I think that, to answer your question in its entirety, that kind of led to my claim to fame, was working with men in that way.
So you never went to college?
No.
Oh, self-taught, self-figured out. I like that. So you went, I love love. I say that all the time. Is there some childhood trauma that you had to overcome? Because with me, I didn't get any love. Like if there was a love container, like I owe love still from my childhood.
Yeah.
No, I've done all the work. So, and we're going to deep dive into hypnotherapy because I think that's the one modality that really changed my life. So,
Really?
yeah, it was, and it just happened by happenstance. So, but is there a childhood? Yeah, I went deep dive through your stuff. I didn't see anything about your childhood. Is there a story there that you'd like to share so people understand why you're on the Hard on Life podcast, what you've been through? People love to hear about. I hate talking about my childhood, not because it's just not who I am anymore. I've healed it. And I want to go into the next step. Let's start from here. Let's go forward. I was physically and emotionally abused. Absolutely no love. Parents were alcoholics, never around. I've forgiven them. I've done all the work you can do. And it started in hypnotherapy. So we're going to deep dive in that. But is there a story that you'd like to share with the listeners, the Harder Than Life listeners, that makes you harder than life?
Yeah, absolutely. My harder than life story happened a little bit later. So my childhood was filled with the complex trauma. And there is a distinction for the listeners between complex trauma and, quote unquote, regular trauma that results as PTSD. So PTSD is from, sexual abuse, physical abuse, like you said, having alcoholic parents, things that are more poignant, things that are a one time, and it can be ongoing, but something that happens that you can really point to it and it affects the neurology in a certain way. Whereas complex trauma is, it's sneaky. It's trauma that's happening over a period of time that shapes your personality. It shapes how you filter the world, but you kind of don't know it. It's like I almost think about it as like you could take a shot of alcohol, a shot of hard alcohol, that's like the PTSD, but complex trauma is like you have a mixed drink and you don't know the alcohol's in there. You don't quite know what's happening. So it's less interesting to talk about my childhood. I had all this complex trauma. My dad, who I love very much, and we've healed quite a bit, uh, basically didn't want to have kids. He didn't want to have kids. He wasn't around. So I didn't have a father figure. And so that was part of the complex trauma. My mom had some stuff going on that developed into enmeshment trauma, I later realized, but I didn't know any of this. So I ended up marrying somebody when I was 21. Don't recommend it. Don't get married when you're 21. But I didn't know, because of my traumas that I didn't even know were existing. And we had a baby. And when my son was 3 and I was married, we got pregnant and I was 3 months pregnant, and he basically drained all of our finances, shut off our water, canceled my health insurance and my kids' health insurance, and completely pieced out, left the country. And I wasn't working at the time. So I had no money, no health insurance, nowhere to live, nothing. I was like $30,000 in debt, and I'm pregnant and I'm sick and I have this 3-year-old and he's gone. And I was just like, fuck. So that was my harder than life moment. But it was in that moment that it felt like such rock bottom. And I was like, okay, if this is rock bottom. There was this strange, almost undercurrent of creativity and expansion in that was like, well, if everything is gone, everything was taken from me in a moment, like my entire future, the marriage, the everything. And I wasn't even working at the time. I was like, well, what do I want to create? And that's how I found hypnotherapy, was because I listened to a hypnosis, and I started picturing my life of like, well, if I could ask for anything, what do I want? And what would that feel like? And how would I walk? And how would I talk? And how would I dress? And sort of everything shaped around that.
Man, I was looking forward to this. You just went deep. We're 7 minutes into this, and you're right into the nitty gritty. So I love it. We're gonna go right with that. What was the number one lesson that you learned? I was gonna tee you up, and I'm gonna just ask you, what's the number one lesson you learned from that marriage?
From that marriage, what was the number one lesson I learned? That's a good question. I would say that I learned how much people project overlays based on how they're wired from childhood onto how they view people that they're in relationships with, and how they perceive and expectations, and how, when you're not aware and you're not doing the inner work of how you're wired and how you're actually taking in information through your five senses, it can really mess you up, because you're not perceiving things in truth. You're perceiving things through altered states of consciousness, of child consciousness. And we think of ourselves as one person, like I'm Kate and I'm here. But if I were to be triggered, I would switch personalities, so to speak, because my awareness would go into different parts of my neurology. And that's what happens so often in relationships, in marriages, because we're wired to be a tribal species. We're wired to connect with people, and we're wired to be close and intimate and in love. And when you're not looking at the particularities of how you're wired around that, from complex trauma and regular trauma, you end up in situations where you actually have to disassociate oftentimes just to stay in things. You have to create lies. And we can, I mean, I could talk forever about this, about how our minds create lies and where that comes from. And
Oh man, I'm so glad you're on the show. I say I produce a lot of content about thoughts or magical lies, man. With the things we tell ourselves to survive and cope is insane. And that you went right where I thought you were going to go with that. And I'm going to take it a step further, and you can feel free to,
yeah,
to correct me, because I'm going to put words in your mouth, which is this: is own your shit. You looked at yourself. You didn't give a crap about what he was doing and about what was at. It was, hey, what did I do to attract this, let's say,
Yes.
emotionally unavailable, and sounds like it was an avoidant if he ran. Things got tough, and you looked at yourself and said, how do we, that's the heart of the life journey right there. You just said it. That's exactly what I did. I didn't sit back here and, woe is me, my parents didn't love me, I'm going to be a piece of crap, as all my friends from high school are mostly dead or in jail. And
Wow.
I could have done the same, and I just said, nope, I'm going to go work on me. And then here I am interviewing you. Did you say you you have two children
Yeah.
and they never get to see their dad?
Well, since then we've done some reconciliation, so he sees them sometimes. But he's not really present. And it is something that of course I would want him to be more involved and more present to that. But I look at it the same way as you. It's like, well, I take 100% responsibility, if not more, for marrying him. And this is like the karmic cleanup from that, because it was my choice to marry him. And of course, we could look at it and say, yeah, but like you married him because this shit that happened in your childhood, so you couldn't see it clearly. But yeah, I also chose to create those lies as a child for survival and for self love. And so the most self loving thing I can do is just to keep owning it and claiming it. And like, I just think the more embodied and the deeper you can just show up for the good stuff and the bad stuff. It's like that's where life is. Like, what else are you doing if you're not showing up for both?
Karmic cleanup. I love it. You're fabulous. Guys, you guys got to go to her website. I said it in the show notes, the intro. They'll be in the show notes, but she has a ton of courses that you can just access immediately. They're very affordable. You can hear her genuine, soft, gentle, and compassion delivery. We're going to deep dive into this even more, but I can tell I've done a ton of work. Now that I'm an expert, you've forgotten more about this, but for some reason, when you do a lot of work on yourself, you can spot other people that did a lot of work on themselves, and then you can see through BS, and then you attract better. So that's what the beauty part about doing the work it does. So the two, you said you had a son, which was the youngest one or the older one. Did you have a girl to complete the set or no?
I did, yes. So I have a 10-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl.
And so I'm going to invade your privacy for just a second. You have two boy or a boy and a girl, 10, 6. You released a reel that I binged on. It was a 15-minute something where you're talking about, and I'm probably stealing some later notes that I have, talking about how much you love. And this was about a year ago, and you're like, I want to date all you. And you're like, not realistically, but metaphorically. In the last year, putting out this kind of content, have you been able to attract a partner, or have you still continued to push away the ones that aren't for you?
I think the one that you're talking about was I had broken up with somebody that I was very, very in love with, purely based on I sat in meditation one day and I was like, if I'm going to work with men, I need to access my masculine within me. And I can't do it if I'm leaning on this person's masculine. And he wasn't bad. I mean, he was really great. And so I ended that relationship, and I had this huge expansion. I didn't date for a while. I launched the men's course. I started working with a ton of men, and then since then, I view relationships a little bit differently at this point in my life, where like I'm not necessarily looking for that one person. I'm not overlaying like I don't desire to get married. I don't desire to have one person. I desire authenticity, and I desire growth, and I desire play, and I desire fun, and I desire learning. And so I show up for that, but I don't ever have like a time limit on it. So I've had two like really great loves in the last couple years that were like medicine for my heart, you know, and they both ended, and that's okay.
Well, Jeez, I was about to break my own rule. I was about to say you're a lot, and you're not. You're a lot for people that are not, or that are a little, that haven't done the work. So I find it incredibly attractive when people have done work on themselves. It is refreshing. You're not going to have the same old silly, insecure arguments where the childhood wounds are banging against each other. But you've gone some interesting paths to get here. And I found it fascinating that you are an expert at face reading and body language. So, could you explain how face reading works and what one might learn from it?
Absolutely. So, I started with the energy healing, and looking back on it, I didn't realize it then, but I was reading subconscious patterns. I was just doing it intuitively. When I learned hypnotherapy, it's subconscious. And for those of you that don't know what subconscious means, it's like if you imagine an iceberg, and the very tip of the iceberg is your conscious mind. So this is like the thoughts that you're aware of. This is the decisions, the choices, the behaviors that you're aware of. It's about 5% of who you are on a daily basis. So we kind of think we're in control of our lives, and we're really not. It's being run by a set of programs that is beneath the tip of the iceberg, and that's what the subconscious is called. And so being hyper obsessed, we could call it, with the subconscious and with how the patterns are formed and how to change those patterns and how to actually reach your hands into your own mind and rewire from a place of free will those patterns so that the patterns that you want become automated, just became an obsession. And that's where face reading and body language came in, because face reading is fascinating, weirdly accurate, and pair it with body language is even more accurate. So what I got really good at with face reading is where subconscious emotional patterns are held in the lines and wrinkles of the face. So yeah. Kelly's getting all like, oh shit. So I usually don't share this with people. I've been on dates with people before where they have been like, well, oh, I saw your work, face read me on like a first date, and I'll do it and they'll start crying. And this is not an uncommon thing to happen. So anyway, so with face reading, some of it is based off of like Paul Ekman's work, where the micro expressions. And so when we have a lot of micro expressions of something that we're not consciously aware of, those show up as lines, as wrinkles on the face. And then of course it's also an ancient Chinese practice because it's Chinese face reading. And so that helps me as a practitioner. When I'm working with somebody, I can see their subconscious without them even speaking it. And then if I do speak it, let's say I'm like, oh, interesting, are you carrying grief from childhood, or did something happen when you were 5, or whatever it is? Then based off of how their body language reacts to that, then I have a very complete picture within 30 seconds of somebody. And
Can
it's
we
it's
do
again,
one?
it's accurate. Yeah, your picture is blurry, but
The
so it's
Riverside
hard.
must be giving us a little problem. So I'll do my best to lean into it.
Lean into it.
Can you see
So
me?
yeah,
You're
come
here.
closer. Take off your hat. So one of the face reading things that jumps out at me the very, very most is that you have a really nice forehead. So the forehead is actually, which totally checks out, expanded thinking, very, very broad thinking. There's a little bit I see of like an extrapolative forehead, so you can kind of like pull ideas together and make them your own. And can you actually pull back your hairline?
Hey, I'd like to show that look at all this hair. I'm 48 years old. Look at all this hair.
Well, you have very nice hair. Good job. Wait, can you hold it? Can I see it? Can you hold it back so I can see
Absolutely.
it? Yeah, so there's the extrapolation, and then you can see the difficult relationship with your mom, because see how it's jagged here. So there's jagged here, and then the extrapolation. I have the extrapolation too, like very extrapolative.
Hold on a second. Did I say? I don't believe I said that it was my mom. I said parents, and you just grabbed mom right off of that. Did you figure that out? Was there something in the face reading that did that?
Yeah, like the jaggedness,
Wow,
you
you
know.
nailed it
And
right
I
on.
could keep going. Like, I mean, what's that?
Unless you read my book and get to get all that, but
No, I didn't. I read your bio last week. And then it's hard for me to see that so much information is held in the eyes and the eyebrows. And it's hard to tell, like, if you have, do you have just, you have two lines here, right? In
it
between your
looks like it.
eyebrows?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, so that's impatience.
Me? Heck no.
No. Yeah. And so depending on how deep the lines are.
I work on listening more and being patient and moving slower because nothing moves fast enough for me. Nothing. I want to go run through the wall, take over the world, and go, 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 go. So yeah, that's funny. So let's go, let's keep going. Let's talk about body language. What body language cues that reveal more than words do?
Body language, it's such an in-depth practice, but essentially the body never lies. You know, we were talking about lies. The mind lies all the time. So it's the prefrontal cortex, it's the part of the human brain that basically differentiates us from animals in the wild. We have this really beautiful, colorful, creative part of our brain that can think into the future and create different versions of ourselves and place meaning on things. And we get to choose that. But that part of the brain that is beautiful and colorful and human is the exact same structure of the brain that generates lies. And so, right. So it's the same thing. It's like that double edged sword. You can have something happen to you and be like, oh shit, that was that's because I'm not good enough. That's why that happened. That's a meaning that you've placed on it and a lie. It's both. So you could tell yourself a different meaning. Well, this happened to me because universe is guiding me towards, the best thing ever, right? It's also a randomized meaning and it's also made up. So all of that to say that with body language, the body does not lie because the body is the subconscious. The body will always react first. The body will show what the nervous system is doing long before words do. So when you're watching for body language, you're watching for one, it has to be in context with what people are saying. What's their body doing? Is it congruent? Is it not congruent? This is what I teach men partially in the program. Is like, men are like, well, I want to meet women. I want to be more confident. It's kind of useless to teach people to be more confident because yeah, like you can lean back, you can take up space, you can put your foot up on the table, and you can exude confident body language, but it requires too much willpower to actually hold it if you subconsciously believe that you are not confident. So the real work around body language is teaching people congruency. I believe that I'm confident. I know that I'm confident. I am confident. It becomes your identity. And I don't remember your question, but I think it was some body
No, you
language
did.
things. Essentially,
I said, what the body language, and you just answered. You said, are you congruent with what you're saying? It's fascinating. I had to teach myself this at a very young age. I had to watch, excuse me, my father and my mother's mannerisms when they walk in drunk and know, am I going to get my ass kicked or not? Um, and then if I could see I saw agitated mom or agitated dad, I can learn how to diffuse it really as fast as I could. I'd get him a beer. I'd play records. I would just run and hide and pretend like I was sleeping. So I became a master at. You sometimes you could tell how they open the door. I just and then you know what it did, and this is how I framed my life. First of all, we're a top 30 podcast in self improvement. I've got a successful 7-figure IT company. So I became a great salesperson by being able to read body language and nonverbal cues. So the face reading and that's I have got to see and feel people. So that's why I wish we were in person. I'd get more. Where are you located?
I'm in LA.
Oh, nice. Nice. Oh, that's dating. I'm in right now. I just landed. I live in Florida and in Michigan. So I just got to my Michigan home. My company's in Michigan, even though it's it's nationwide. So I flip flop from the sun to the cold. I have a 15-year-old daughter that's here in Michigan. So on the weekend she's at her mom's, and I go to Florida. On the weekdays I'm here. So it's I get to I healed, and I healed young ladies coming from me. So she gets to live the life that I wish I had, and I have absolutely zero uh, grudges against my parents. They did the best they could with what they had. I'm here. A lot of what they inadvertently taught me, I use today. I'm a big muscular guy because I didn't want to get beat. It's a conversation starter. I walk in the room, everybody wants to know who the big guy is. I'm 48, still in great shape. People still want to talk to me. It's good times.
it's like it's the art of darkness. I mean, that's all we can do, I think, as humans is like obviously, shit and things are going to happen. But if you can own it so fully back to that 100% responsibility, like you've done, and then you create art from it. It's a birthing process. Like you're creating something that has never existed before. You're taking in darkness and you're alchemizing it into like something really beautiful.
I never thought of that, but you're right, and I'm paying it forward because I want if I overcame all this, anybody can really. I mean, I went down the same path of addiction and drinking, partying, and rock and womanizing, and I just said there's got to be something more, and I just quit cold turkey. Didn't hit rock bottom, and that's why I like talking to people like you because I like people to understand that there's so many more data. You don't have to go to just a therapist anymore. You don't have to take drugs. You don't have to take Xanax. You don't have to take. There's nothing wrong with you. You have feelings. Let's name them. Let's work on them. Let's process them and let's live life. I called it harder than life. When you get really going on working on yourself, it becomes easier than life because I almost can't make mistakes anymore. I mean, I make mistakes, but I can't go down a bad path because I've got such habits and rituals and modalities that just keep me on the right path. And then I got access to beautiful people like you that if I have a weird feeling or a weird thing that I can't process, I call and go, hey, Kate, what's this? I want to remind you, you have a program coming up. You're just, I resonate with you a lot. So I want to have you on. I wish that you were available when I was looking for somebody, but you have a program coming up that you're going to be launching to teach trauma release method on Instagram and YouTube. Can you tell the listeners about that as well as how do you want them listen? How can they get max benefit from you. And then there's a third one question. Sorry, this is all about you because I'm picking up a lot of good energy from you and you, my listeners. I'm putting the stamp of approval on you. So I saw one-on-one coaching is available, but it was like hidden, and we had to kind of like message you. So just give me an infomercial, and I'm telling you right now, I don't know you from prior, but I did a deep dive on you. Our schedulers did a deep dive on you, and you're fabulous. You're the real deal. We're going to do more stuff together. So use this as your infomercial. That how do you want the Heart of the Life listeners to interact with you?
Okay. I will give you the infomercial. I have to backtrack to one thing that you were saying first because you're going to love it. There's one face reading trait, and it's called emotional acuity. And I can't see it, but I'm sure that you have it. And it's next to your ears, and it's like vertical lines that go up and down.
Where is it in here?
Nope, it's on your face, but it's next to your ears, vertical lines like this.
Huh? I'll have to look for them. I can't. It's pretty dark in here for some reason. I don't know why my lights are jacked up. Where would I look?
Right here. I think I see them right there. It's a little bit blurry, but text me a picture later. And what those lines mean are that you've gone through trauma in the past where you've had to develop the skill to be able to walk into a room and read the room really, really quickly for your survival.
Ooh,
And
bam.
it's like a superpower. It's like a trauma that birthed like a superpower. And I love people that have those lines because they generally make very good salespeople and they're very perceptive.
Well, I can tell you right now, I have a sixth sense. I can tell you when something's going to pop up. I grew up in the ghetto, man. I went to high school with Eminem, and like his movie 8 Mile was exactly how we grew up. So your head had to be on a swivel because you could get shot, stabbed, or beat up in a second, and over nothing. So I walk into a room, I'm looking at everybody and everything, and there's certain times I'd be out and I'd look at my friends like, "Hey, I'm going to take off, but I suggest you guys leave very soon." And they're like, why? And I'm like, I'm just telling you, I can feel negativity going on. And then I leave, someone gets shot. Like, and they're like, man, we left and thank God we did. And I was like, yeah, I think that's just, I look at it this way. And this is going to sound weird to most people. I don't know, maybe you too, but I just believe God has been paving my path to be here today to help as many people as I can. We just passed over 200,000 followers on Instagram. We're launching a coaching program. We are just getting started on how we're going to give back to this universe. And I don't care what anybody has to say or what anybody do. We're going to keep coming. We're going to keep trying to help. My backstory was to be a big boozer, And the moment I decided to stop with the crutches, life got better. And I just keep creating awareness that, hey, man, life is outstanding, and it just keeps getting better. So I keep saying that every time I was shot at, I was stabbed, I was run over, I was beat, there's a reason why I'm here, man. There's a reason why I'm here, and I'm not gonna waste it. And I'm gonna give back to everybody and lean and breathe into everybody. So that's my 2 seconds. So again, tell the listeners how they can, and then we're gonna deep dive into hypnotherapy because I'll tell you my story about hypnotherapy and how it literally changed my life. But go tell me how they can work with you.
The max bang for your buck, I would say, if you're a man and you're listening, you want the good stuff. You want to really heal your past, which is, I mean, you make it sound all hot and sexy, but most men are like, oh, I don't want to do that. They want the end result. They don't necessarily always want to do the work. I make the work very, very fun. I would do the men's program. It works really well. I've had like mind-blowing results from people that just do the course and don't even work with me one-on-one, and it's only $500. It's actually $497. It's less than $500, and that's probably going to go up soon. So if you're interested in that, I would get on that now, because that's actually, that's how you rewire your entire subconscious to become who you're meant to be and who you want to be, so that when you're on your deathbed, you're not like, oh fuck, like I didn't show up. I didn't access that confidence. I didn't like go for the thing that I really wanted. I didn't allow my masculinity to really enter my body because I was constantly stuck in my head overthinking everything. And I hear that a lot from men that go through that program. If you want the most bang, you do the course and the one-on-one work with me. And you can, I, like you said, I have the one-on-one stuff on my website, or you could just message me on Instagram. Just send me a DM, say, let me know you want to do one-on-one work. And the people that I've done both with, because they're getting that back end of the consistent work with the course, it walks you through all of the steps. And then, with my expertise in body language and face reading, and then personal hypnotherapy, it works really well. And then for people that work with me one-on-one, I will record a personal hypnosis. So basically it's really intense, because I have extraordinarily keen observation skills. I watch for exactly when they're telling me truth, what they want, their words that they use, so that it goes straight into their subconscious. I record it with my voice. I edit it, make it super badass with all the binaural beats. So it's like injecting new programs into your subconscious. And then I give them a regimen of how often to listen to it. And it's usually about 21 days. And then it's as needed after that. It's like a prescription.
Just so everybody, their grandmother doesn't message you. Sorry, didn't mean to talk over you. Just so everyone, their grandmother doesn't message you. What's the price for the one-on-one coaching?
The price for the one-on-one is $1,200 for a month, and you get 4 sessions. And then after, it's just month to month.
Guys, this is it's the best money you ever. That's the best money you're ever going to spend. And I'm going to tell you right now. You said something. I'm going to read it. It is hot and sexy. It is. There were times that I wanted to crawl in a hole, but it's like anything in life. When you go through difficult times, they don't last, but tough people do, and you keep going. It's like going in the gym, and the first time you work out, it's hard, and your muscles ache. But then all of a sudden, you look in the mirror, and you've got a 6-pack, and you're like, woo! And you're attracted to a different person. So if you want to live your best life, you've got to become the best you, and you will attract the correct people in your life. And the best part about it is you push away what's not for you. It's hard to understand that, but all of a sudden the universe just they oh heck no. I'm sure that's what happens to you. Every guy that is unhealed come reach out to you and be like, yeah, no, thank you. So, and that's the unintended benefit of doing the work on yourself. So you have that trauma release program coming out, and I'm gonna assume, this is a big assumption because I did it, that it has to do with hypnotherapy, correct?
Everything that I do always has to do with hypnotherapy. I've found it to be the wildest, best way to induce large states of neuroplasticity, so that you can actually experience like that immediate change. Because it's immediate. Even in the men's program, like it starts off with like an immediate gratification of like, you notice a difference the second you start. And then it's that pleasurable feeling that you get that gives you authentic desire without willpower to like want to reach in and do the more trauma based work. So, with the program that I have coming up, quick story time. I so after all of this with my ex-husband, I was just like super rock bottom. I was like, I don't know who I am. I felt like a shell of a person. If I showed you a picture from when I was married, I don't even look like the same person. Like my bone structure, I'm carrying maybe like 20, 30 extra pounds. Didn't do anything to change the way that I look. It's the inner work. The inner work, when you're embodied, you glow differently. Your body kind of adjusts differently. So I was like, shit, I need to go see a therapist because this is messed up. Like, I don't know how I got myself in this position. And I ended up moving back in with my parents. So I had this newborn and I'm living at my parents and I'm getting re traumatized with all of this complex trauma. I had no idea it existed. But now I'm there with two kids, I'm postpartum, and I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, this is why I had an eating disorder, because I had an eating disorder all throughout high school as well. I was like, this is why I had an eating disorder. This is why I married this person. This is why my relationships are always messed up. Like, kind of putting that reason and piecing the pieces together. So, anyway, so I found this somatic therapist, this local somatic therapist, and I would go to her, and she was not a hypnotherapist, but she would always ask me to close my eyes and feel into my body. And I had zero connection to my body. I was like cut off from the neck down. I didn't even know feeling things in your body was like a thing. It was totally foreign to me. But every time I would close my eyes and she would be like, feel into your body, and I'd bring my awareness down, I would start shaking, like I would start convulsing. And there were times where I would end up on her floor, like not just a little bit shaking, like sporadically shaking and sweating, like drenched in sweat, or laughing hysterically, or my eyes would start fluttering. Sometimes, like my tongue or my occiput, like muscles that I didn't even know existed, would start firing. And it happened every time. For a year, I went to this woman. I would always end up on her floor. And I was like, what the fuck? To the point where I was asking her, I was like, do you think I like have sexual trauma in my past, like that I'm processing? She's like, no, this is all of the complex trauma that's coming out via your body. So this shaking thing became a part of my toolkit. It was like, okay, so when I go through something and I check in with my body, if my body, and my body is my subconscious, needs to rewire something, it's not going to be done through my mind. It's not going to be done through the part of me that thinks that I know what's best. No, it's like my body takes over and it heals it. It knows what to do. It rewires my neurology and it changes even my muscular structure. It's the bizarrest feeling ever. And then it started happening like after like hours of lovemaking, like long lovemaking sessions, and all of that kundalini would like open, and I would start shaking, and it would like spontaneously happen. And then it started happening. I would be like working out, I started doing a little bit of strength training. And if I fatigued my muscles enough, it would have the same result. And I was like, well, this is just so interesting. Like I didn't share it with anyone. It was just something that I kind of had for myself. I didn't even know it was a thing until I trained with to learn body language. I trained with the top interrogator in the CIA and the FBI because I wanted to like, get really good at it. And so I went to his seminar and I'm training with him. And at some point during the seminar, he's like, the best way to improve your body language is to do this thing called TRE, trauma release exercise. And he's explaining it. And he's like, it's when your body takes over and it kind of starts convulsing, but it rewires you back to truth, back to like presence. And I was like, oh, I think I do that all the time. I just didn't know it had a name. I didn't know it was a thing. And he's like, well, do you want to demonstrate it? So in front of like all these people, he walks me through how he learned TRE, and I sat on the floor. This is on YouTube, by the way, Kate Colley on YouTube. It's called, I don't know what it's called. Just type in Kate Colley trauma. I'm sure it'll come up. And for an hour, I was shaking, and people were recording, and this whole thing happened. And then it was at that moment where I started to realize, like, oh, this is something that people need to know, because there are so many people sitting and talking about their traumas, talking about what happened to them, and they're not really making the change in the body. And so that is a part of the upcoming course where I teach you how to tap into that, because it's nuance. It's not like you go to yoga class and they're like, okay, shake your body. It's not that. It's not conscious. So I teach you how to drop into that subconscious so that you can process shit. You don't even have to know what you're processing because your body does it. And then I pair that with emotional health, because people also don't know what the heck to do with their emotions. People demonize anger, they demonize grief, they demonize depression. Most people feel an emotion and they're like, oh shit, something's wrong. How do I feel better as quickly as possible? And if you're doing that, you're quite literally self-hating yourself. You are rejecting a part of yourself. You're throwing out the gold that is in the midst of that emotion, and you're messing up your life. Your emotions are there for a reason. Your body's never going to do anything against you ever, including every single emotion possible. And if you don't know how to access the gold, and I teach you exactly what the gold is in the course, if you don't know how to access that gold, then either you're going to loop and ruminate in these negative emotions, or you're going to push them away and you're going to disassociate because of it. And then you're going to wonder why you're not satisfied in life.
So doing the math real quickly, I'm not brainiac, but you're either 28 or 31. Which are you?
Neither.
Then I got my math wrong. You said you have a 10-year-old
I have a 10-year-old.
and you were 21.
Yeah. So I have a 10-year-old. I was married when I was 21. I'm 34 right now.
Oh, either way, where I was getting at, I was going to pay you a huge compliment. You are, I see you, I can hear you, and I feel you.
Oh, thank you.
Extremely intelligent. And I wish there were more women like you doing the work, doing good things. So I'll tell you my hypnotherapy story real quick, and then I want you to describe hypnotherapy to someone who might be skeptical about its benefits.
Hypnotherapy. I think people that are skeptical about hypnotherapy think that they're letting go of control, that they are letting someone else take over, that they're going to lose control in some way. And it's actually quite the opposite, because how I was explaining, we're run by these subconscious patterns. They're running your life anyways. What hypnotherapy does is it gives you the opportunity to change and choose those patterns. It's giving you more control to rewire how it is that your subconscious functions on an automated day-to-day basis, so that you can live your life from things that you have control over and that you choose. It also has the ability to change negative memories, and it has the ability to give you access to information that otherwise wouldn't be consciously available, so that you can heal. I mean, there's just so many benefits to it.
Mm. What I liked about it, this is an info Siegel commercial for you, is that it was not infinite. There was a finite. There was 15 sessions I did, and she's like, if you got to go much more than 15, then I didn't do my job. And boy, I only needed I went 15, but I think I only needed 4 or 5, and we got right to the root of it. And then, so having said that, have you also done EMDR?
I have not done EMDR, but I know about it. A good friend of mine does it.
And then how about plant medicine? You done any plant medicine?
Yeah, I've done ayahuasca and
Where
psilocybin
at?
here and there. Just over here in Santa Monica. Yeah, I have a funny story around that, but
You just 45 minutes into this, I'm barely through questions. We're gonna keep going, and we'll just more. You know what I'd like to do? This keeps talking to me. I'd like to do, because I'm incredibly vulnerable, and I will give it to you. If you ever want to do a case study live, I'll do it with you. Like anything, because you'll know right away, and I will talk about anything you want to talk about. You want to ask me my deepest, darkest secrets? I don't know. I'd tell you. I'm crazy. I'm freaky. I like everything. I'll tell I'm not afraid. But if you want something, I'll volunteer, because I love the expansion of my mind. I love digging into my mind. And I just don't think there's ever going to be an end to it. I this weekend I was around. I officiated a wedding in Fort Lauderdale. I was around a lot of drinking, and I was around some friends that are in the personal development space who were drinking. And I said, why do I feel for them? Why do I care that people are drinking? I don't really care because I live my life, but I want everybody to feel the way I do every day. And I feel bad for these people. And I have this massive compassion. So this weekend, all weekend long, I'm like, is there some sort of subconscious trauma that's being activated? So this is the kind of work that I do on myself. I'll write in my journal, like, why do I care that people I love are drinking poison to avoid their feelings? Do you want to care to the little bit of that you know about me? What do you think the hypothesis is on this?
It would be, I'm not sure exactly what the hypothesis is. I might need to have a little bit more information, but like if we were in a session, I would have you be like, well, what do you notice in your body? And even as you talk about it, like that feeling of you caring, what do you notice in your body?
I
And I
get
can explain
excited.
that more if you don't know what I mean.
No, so this is why. It's gonna feed. This is gonna actually feed the next question. But I feel superior, euphoric, and I feel bad for feeling that way. That's the truth. I It's a cheat code, people. Work on yourself. Don't drink, don't do drugs. Don't avoid the quote unquote hard things because that's where the magic is. Once you look into the abyss and you go right into it, life gets so good. That's why Harder Than Life exists. I'm
Okay, I
telling
have a
you.
question for you.
What'd you say?
Oh, I have a question, but finish what you're saying.
I just you're gonna hear me on a soapbox because I want everybody. That's what this all exists for. Because I want everybody to feel the way I do. I wake up and I feel fantastic, and the day gets better and better and better. I woke up this morning in Florida, and now I'm here in Michigan, and I get to see my daughter in about an hour. I'm gonna go to the gym. We're gonna go to a grocery shop. We're gonna cook dinner, and then I rinse and repeat. I get to do this. This is what I get to do, and I get paid for it. And I get to meet fabulous people like you. And when I come to LA, we're gonna hang out. We're gonna freaking figure out how to help more people. So, what's your question?
Okay. My question is, that doesn't sound like there's a huge shadow there, to be honest. But if there were to be a shadow, if you could successfully, obviously you can't do this, but if you could successfully get that message across to every single one of your friends that was drinking, and they could know it and feel the truth of your message the same way that you did, or the same way that you do, what feeling would that give you that you really want?
It would make this. Oh, you just got me there. It would make this world a better place, and that's the world I want to live in. I want to live in a united, safe, loving world where we all care about each other. That's a universe that I believe exists. I really do. Once we peel down the greed and the trauma and the addictions and all the masks, I believe most people are good. I just do, and that euphoric place is utopia to me. That's like the matrix of what we're trying to create.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. And if you could have that, if you could successfully create that utopia, that euphoric place, what would be meaningful to you about that if you could create that?
Oof, I see you therapizing me on this, and that's an interesting one. There's that goes a web. It would be kind of cool to be the person that led the charge, but that is underlying. The main one is just to be able to exist in that construct of a world that's just what could we accomplish next when putting out a post you didn't get 42,000 people telling you why obviously I got this big because I did steroids. No, this is 30 years of working out, people. And it's a protection. So if I could be in a world where everybody was pushing you, what could we create next? It's this infinite expansive mind that I have of what is possible. And you'll hear me say this: impossible only describes the degree of difficulty. So you say if I can create, when I create. And it's not me, it's you, it's all of the positive people that are genuine and authentic and live in their vulnerability and putting themselves out there, even though they're getting their teeth kicked in. I'm sure you get a lot of hate and I'd hate to see how many dick pics are in your DMs. So,
I gotta knock on a lot of wood, but I've never gotten a DM dick pic.
well, darn. You talk about sex so much, darn it. I'm
I
kidding.
know.
I'm
I mean,
kidding.
I get some weird messages, but no dick pics.
Oh my God, I can only imagine. I get weird ones. And I'm just honored to be out in front of people, and I got thick skin, and there's nothing it's none of my business what anybody thinks about me, so it doesn't bother me. So let's go into some the more questions. It's how does trauma influence addiction based on your experience with clients? That's what I'm all about. So that's why I drink.
Yeah, and so I'm actually the lead hypnotherapist at a holistic rehab center here in LA. So I'm there once a week. So I've been working with addicts for years. So I'm well versed in this topic too.
So how does it this is the number one question I get. If somebody I go around somebody and I say I don't drink, and I'm not an alcoholic. I just choose not to drink anymore. I used to drink a lot. I didn't hit rock bottom. There's no story. I just got tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired. First answer I get is, well, I don't have a problem with drinking. I didn't ask you that. So what? How does this trauma, this childhood trauma we've been talking about the entire time, influence the addiction that so many people don't have?
Right. It's a yeah, layered question. And then honestly goes back to like the questions that I was just asking you. The reason I was asking, I was going to take it down some more layers, and you can do this at home if you're listening. If you're triggered around something or you want to dig into it, you ask, well, if I were to get the desired outcome, what's the reason for that? Like what's meaningful to me about that? And then you take it a layer deeper. Okay, well, if I were to get that, what's the reason behind it? And then you take it a layer deeper. If I were to get that, what's the meaning behind it? Because essentially you're getting down to your programming. Human beings are highly motivated by pain and by pleasure, and we're constantly and automatically making decisions, not on a conscious level, to move away from pain and toward pleasure. And so if you take that into the addiction realm and how trauma influences that, because of what trauma does to your body, and this is again, it's so layered. If it's real PTSD trauma, there are literal parts of your nervous system that are frozen in time, because that's what trauma does, is it freezes time. And so the way I think about it and like to explain it is like zebras grazing in the grass. Totally chill the fuck out. I say fuck a lot. Sorry. Is that okay? Should I stop? Okay. Okay. Chill the fuck out. And a lion comes out and it starts to attack the zebra. The zebra is going to get all this adrenaline because the zebra loves itself. The zebra's body wants to survive. That is the root of self-love. And all of its blood flow will go away from digestion towards its extremities, and it's going to run. The lion's going to chase, and then, eventually the lion potentially could catch up. It's going to bite the zebra's neck. And there's a moment where the zebra's mind and body goes, okay, this is totally futile. There is no way I'm going to escape this. And the neurology freezes. It goes, I have to accept death right now. And so I'm going to freeze in time. I'm going to create some other hormones so that death is not so painful. And I'm going to accept death. And it makes it so that that process is less painful, because we're always driven by moving away from pain and towards pleasure. Now, let's just say that the lion goes, I'm not hungry anymore, runs away. The zebra's okay. The zebra's well enough to get up and go back to its tribe. The zebra is, and this is the difference between humans and animals in the wild, the zebra is not going to get up and just walk back to the tribe with its nervous system frozen. The zebra is going to do the trauma shaking that I'm teaching in my upcoming course. It's actually going to go through a process where the body, and only the body, not the mind, the body knows how to unfreeze time so that every part of its neurology can come back online, can start seeing the bigger picture, literally, can start open up its visual cortex, can look around, can be like, there's no more lion. I'm not going to die. And I have to resume life in real chronological time. The nervous system has to process those stress chemicals. The blood flow has to come out of the extremities back into the digestion. And then it goes back to the tribe. And then that zebra will never once have to go see a therapist, won't develop an addiction, and it won't have PTSD, and it won't ever become depressed. It just doesn't. It assimilates back into it, back into the body. So when people experience trauma, we don't do that process. And so if you've experienced trauma when you're 5 years old and you haven't processed it, there is a part of your neurology that is frozen in time and running this like unlimited, unended loop as if that is still happening. There's a part of you that has accepted death. And if it's real PTSD, the acceptance, I can feel it as I'm talking about it. The acceptance of death, it's like it takes your breath away. It's a really intensely fearful, not pleasurable feeling. And so you have to take your mind out of your body, go up into your head, and then you're disassociated. And it's in that gap of disassociation that's what breeds addiction. I mean, I could keep going, but
You just blew my mind. I got to tell you that that was exactly what I went through. And on top of it, I didn't care if I lived or died. It just didn't matter. I didn't think I was worthy enough. I think yeah, I was just going to party and just, it did not matter. So that frozen in time, I just kept repeating that, and, preferably drinking the poison, expecting my parents to die until I went back to that frame. I first did it in hypnotherapy. We did it in talk therapy, but I could not, I was stuck. He even said, we're done. I can't unstick you. So I called him. I said, hey, I read about this hypnotherapy. Should I do that? He goes, try anything to unstick you. That stuck me. And then I kind of hit another wall with hypnotherapy. And I went, So then I went to EMDR. And then that really unstuck me. And then you just said something. That's why I love doing this. Then what released it from the body was plant medicine. I didn't do ayahuasca. I did something much less. I don't even I don't even know. Just something where I
Kana.
went, I think it was Kana, and it just released from my body. And ever since then, I have felt the truest sense of me. And that's when the brand and everything and my business, everything has just gone straight up, skyrocketed. So work works. It's fantastic. I have so many more questions. We're into the hour, but I'm going to blaze through. Let's get short answers a little bit and I'm going to have you back. You're remarkable. And I'm enjoying this conversation. This is a masterclass. Gentlemen, I'm asking her these questions. A, I'm learning. B, I'm also testing to make sure that she's the real deal and she's passing flying colors, which you already knew because you're fabulous. And not that I'm the expert, I just am comparing to my own experiences. So can you share a success story, leaving out all the details about how hypnotherapy helped somebody overcome addiction as much as we can get done? I'm sorry, as much as we can say.
So many stories. I would say in particular to addiction. Um, I've used hypnotherapy. Gosh, one of the most recent ones was someone addicted to meth, and this was at the rehab center, and I'm talking to him, and I'm gaining all of the information about watching where it is that he's tripping up, where it is that he's disassociating. We did, I would say, like a 5-minute hypnosis in a group setting. He didn't even listen to it again, to drill down where it is that his neurology was acting towards, like wanting pleasure and moving away from pain. He goes back home. I give him a couple action steps, and it was because of that hypnosis that he was able to catch himself because he had the experience of moving into his body. Something triggered him externally, and he found himself about to use. And it was just the having that one hypnotic experience, because hypnosis boosts neuroplasticity. So it's like you've done it a million times, even though you've only done it once. He was able to connect with the feeling in his body that he was running away from, extract the underlying need, take action, which is agency. This is what gets lost with addicts and people that have experienced trauma and even depression. We lose agency. Access that agency, take action, and completely sidestep it in a way that he never has before. I have many stories like this
That's
with
remarkable.
Yeah, I work with entrepreneurs too. So it's like I do the addicts, but then I also have entrepreneurs that are like, I want to grow my business, or I want to, I want to get to the next level. And hypnosis works the same with that, because we go back into the past and clear the blocks and then pave the future. And then fucking weird magic shit starts to happen.
Let's do. I offer myself up again as a guinea pig for you to do one live so people can see. I'll. You tell me what you want to go over. I'll go as deep as you want, and because this shit works, guys. This shit works, and what makes you better in your personal life makes you that much better in business. And people have it wrong. If your personal life is in order, your business is going to be tremendously in order. The reverse is never true. You could be the most, I mean, we'd have Michael Jackson or Elvis Presley still here or Prince still here if the reverse was true. Because you can be uber successful in business, which is usually happens when somebody's traumatic, because they'll pump themselves into business, pour themselves into business, and neglect their personal life. If you can make those get balanced and win, you're going to win massively. And she can help you, folks. This is what I'm unpacked. I'll tell you one more. I healed. So I did everything backwards. This is my life. There's probably a line somewhere that says you're backwards in my face that says you're backwards. So, you know what? I learned the hard way, unfortunately, and that's what I'm trying to teach people is you're going to learn it one way or the other. Learn it the easy way. Don't learn it the hard way. I learned it the hard way. So I quit drinking just because I figured there had to be a better life, and then all the trauma came out. Everything I was masking. I thought all I had to do was quit drinking and life would get better. It did, but not before it got really, really bad. But not bad in a sense of anything was wrong. It just, I figured out why I drank. And once I healed that, and I'm gonna say I healed it. I don't prescribe this. It's that I gotta freaking keep. I'm gonna keep working on myself. I'm never gonna stop. It's like working out. You don't work out, you're gonna lose it. But once I healed that, I have zero desire to drink. I was around drinking all weekend long. Like, I went to this crazy hillbilly fun bar in what was the name of this? In some island down in Florida, and everybody was drinking except for me. And I don't care. It's a cheat code. So I got to tell you, once you heal it, you just massive success. So work Katie really sounds like she knows what she's doing. And for $12.97 and $4.97, this cheap because I spent way more than that to work with some heavy hitters. Everybody wants a healthy relationship. Everybody wants a partner, but doesn't want to do the work. So, what are the signs of a healthy versus an unhealthy relationship?
The signs of a health, I mean, my first answer is like a healthy sex life. I know that that's not every part of a relationship, but um, I think that that's like the number one, maybe not the number one. It's something that happens like if, especially for women, like when women stop desiring sex, it's because that they've started sweeping things under the rug, that there's a break in communication. It's kind of like it can be depending on, where your sex drive is normally like in a baseline, but it is the sign that like that level of intimacy is no longer desirable or available because there's shit in the way. There's shit that's not being said. There's shit that's not being communicated. There's shit that's not being talked about. And that comes down to the overlays that we're projecting onto the relationship based off of our childhood. And so I think the sign of a healthy relationship is like that level of intimacy is wanted, it's desirable. And I would, on top of that, I would say then there's growth, and that's maybe more of like a personal anecdote, because I'm hyper obsessed with growth. But I do think that like in generally healthy relationships, both parties are willing to self-reflect and grow, and so that they're growing together.
Yeah, that's been one of my biggest challenges is I continue to grow and whoever's going to be with me has to grow with me or else I'm gonna lap them, and that's tough because as you can see my expectations are super high. If aired the things that I think in my head, you'd be like, get off this podcast because he's crazy. um, I keep deviating from my questions and we're over time, but I want to ask, is the reverse bad where someone who's not in a relationship but is out having multiple sexual relations because that's how they're getting validation? That I'm assuming that's bad.
I don't like to think of things as like bad or good, but yeah, there's probably an unhealthy reason for that that could probably be looked at. You know, I look at it more as like, is the behavior useful? Is the way that you're wired useful toward what it is that you really want? You know, I think about it things more in useful, non-useful rather than good, bad. But probably there's a non-useful pattern being run that is causing that person to have that type of lifestyle.
Let me just throw it in useful for where you want to end up.
Exactly.
Beginning with the end in mind. What's your goal in life? You want to be in a loving, kind relationship? Not do I want to feel good right now? That's useful too, but not in the long term.
Right. Yeah, it's the immediate gratification,
Yeah, boy, that does
which
sound
is
really
masking. I mean, immediate gratification is always masking. I used to work with women with eating disorders and in particular binge eating because so many people struggle with it. And the question that you always have to ask if you're about to binge, what feeling would I be left with if I didn't binge right now? And that's always your answer. That's it.
for the ladies that do listen to this. If you head over to YouTube and watch this, she's a beauty, body in great shape. So congratulations to you for doing the work. It's you're out doing amazing things. You're helping people. You look beautiful. You exude positive energy. I feel love from you through the computer screen. So I want to acknowledge you. Um, and I got to tell you the same thing too. Is your 10-year-old and your 6-year-old are gonna come out this world a much better people in this crazy time of social media and internet and nuts. So we got to start wrapping it up, but I got a couple more questions, and I'm going to bring you back because we didn't get into half of them. But in your work, and what you have experienced is the most common mistake men make in dating and relationships.
The most common the most common mistake, at least with the men that I work with in dating, is that they're in their head and I would actually just say that they're in their head.
I'll be a little more direct because you're being kind in your head and overthinking things. And nice guys do finish last. And you don't have to be an asshole, but you can't be super. You can't let them walk all over you. They're not going to respect you. You have to love yourself. Do the work to have standards and boundaries, and enforce said standards and boundaries. That if they cross them, you walk away. Emotional unavailable Emotionally unavailable women are not sexy no matter how good looking they are. Walk away and signal the universe. So I would tell you that men look at looks too much and think that that's the end all be all. If you were a beautiful woman and I could see the red flags, I could change you. You can't change somebody till they want to change. So that's what I've seen in my little bit of work.
Yeah, I would say that's true. And it's like, if a man is in his head and not in his body, then he's not in his like big dick energy. And like I know I talk about that on Instagram as well, but like it's actually what it is, it's a manipulation. And so if a man is in his head and he's not in his cock energy, then he's actually trying to manipulate in order to get his needs met, which is a very icky feeling for a woman. It is not attractive. But if a man is in his rooted cock sexual energy and not being like led by it, not being run by it, not being overtaken by it, but is there, he's going to have a very erect presence. You, across all ways. Yeah, because patterns exist on all levels. And then when you have that erect presence, it means you're fucking taking care of shit in every part of your life. You feel confident when you wake up. You feel confident when you go to bed. Your bed is fucking made. You don't have dishes in the sink. You have your life together. And then when you show up on a date and dating, you're not sitting there trying to manipulate this woman into thinking that you are confident or that you are somebody that you're not. It's quite literally who you are. And it's one of the things I respect so much about you is especially the way that you've handled your, I don't even want to call it an addiction, like who you used to be, because you've made that you're not, when I hear you talk, here's what I'm trying to say. I don't hear you talking as like an addict. I meet a lot of people who have had addictions in the past and they live their whole lives with the identity of like, I have to wake up every day and fight this addiction. You've transformed it so much because that person that you used to be is not even here anymore. You're an entirely different person. It's an identity change. It doesn't require you willpower to show up and like be who you are. It's like it's as real as like gravity. You don't question gravity. It's just who you are. And anyways, that's I think what, circling back around, that's what people mess up. That's what men mess up in dating, is that they're trying to manipulate who they are in people's perceptions because they don't know how to get their needs met, because they're not even aware of their needs because they're not in their body. They're stuck in their head.
First of all, I received those kind words. Thank you. That it took and I always have to say thank you because it took a lot of work. It took a lot of violent work. There were many times I was curled up in a ball on my couch alone crying and thinking this is stupid. I might as well just go back to being a man whore and drinking and partying. And I'm addicted now. I'm addicted to winning. I'm addicted to working out. I'm addicted to helping people. I'm addicted to this podcast and meeting people like you. So, you know, I, I'm addicted to good things now. And I don't really think I was ever addict. That was just a coping mechanism to survive. And that person wasn't real. I created him. I created this persona to fit in, not to belong and not to thrive, to survive and fit in. And then when you get in, that's the pick me energy. And then when you heal all that, you get your aforementioned big dick energy, which I just love that that's where you went. All right, we got to start wrapping this up. I got to, what's one piece of advice you could give someone who's starting their self-development journey?
I follow me on Instagram. I have a lot of really great self development.
I find your content easily digestible and so simplistic and really just authentic. And I just connect with it. I don't even know how we connected, but everything happens for a reason. And I love it. And you have a friend in me, and there's anything I can do to support you, you name it. Having said that, who are some of your mentors and influencers in your on along your journey?
I have, let's see, I was definitely the therapist that I had where I'd end up on her floor. She's not online. So that was a huge mentor of mine. Chase Hughes, Joe Navarro, those are body language experts that I love. And they're really great. I've trained with both of them. Chase in person, Joe not in person. And David Snyder, I learned hypnotherapy from. Very interesting individual. And I love Teal Swan online. I love her content. Do you know Teal Swan?
No, you are. I if I show you my bookcase over here, you'd see a lot. I read a lot of women's books. I just finished Jamie Kern Lima's Worthy. I read a lot of the women's books because I'm fascinated by how the women think. That's why I have a lot of. I interview a ton of women. Um, I'm trying to help us men, get out of our own way, literally, like you said. So I love Brene Brown. She's like my. I'm going to get her as a guest on the podcast one day, and you'll be excited to know I'm doing a TED talk on vulnerability and how to be courageous enough to be in your feminine. So I'll let you know when that comes out.
Okay, that's powerful for a man to say, by the way, because we all have both sides, and in order to really do the inner work, as you know, it is a feminine process because feelings don't logically make sense.
Well, I was a big tough guy. That was the persona. I was a big tough guy. I got to show you how tough I am. No, no, no. I'm going to sit in here and I'm going to tell you that right now I have feelings, and you've triggered me, and I feel close to you, and I love you already. And I have no problem saying that. I kiss my friends on the cheek. I give them hugs. I tell them what they mean to me. And that was all stuff that the younger, traumatic Kelly would have kicked this Kelly, would have tried to kick this Kelly's ass. And no, we're not here forever. So I'm going to enjoy every minute that I'm on this earth and the people I'm with. I'm going to love them and I'm going to give you so much love that you're going to love yourself and you're going to love me back. So, when you're not working, what do you enjoy doing? And what's some hobbies and interests outside of your professional life besides your two kids?
Yes, kids are top priority. Outside of kids, I hike almost every day. Um, and I do that because there's truth in nature and I have to go remind myself of truth every day. You know what I mean? Like when I'm around
I
nature.
call it my gratitude walk. I do a gratitude walk every day with my little 10-pound Yorkie dog and reminding myself, you'll see me walking and patting my chest, and it's my heart, just centering myself back. So I get it. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really extremely disciplined with self care. I'm always, listening to podcasts and reading books, and I'm out hiking. I go to Pilates. I do date a lot. I love dating. So I would say that's like a hobby. It's a fun thing
Dating
that
in
I do.
LA. It's got to be interesting.
It is. It's interesting. I meet all kinds of interesting people, and I don't know. It's just I love that, and I meditate a lot. My daughter the other day was like, "You meditate a lot," and I was like, "Yeah, I guess I do. Once, twice a day." I love my alone time.
Yeah, that's one of the craziest things that I've learned. The craziest thing is how much I like being alone. I couldn't be misery loves company, but hates being alone. But boy, will I tell you, healed and love and happiness keep be alone forever. That was one of the weirdest things that I've had to get comfortable with. I love peace, clarity, and freedom. So yeah, that's beautiful. I got to tell you, if everybody's watching this Vanderpump stuff, then we should probably put a reality show and watch your dating. I bet you it's got to be some of the funniest things when people realize what you do, and then immediately when you're like, yeah, I can read your facial expressions. Like, I'd love to be a fly on the wall to see that every time.
Yes, my mom last week was like, "You have to have a reality show about your dating life because it's weird, it's wild." Like, and I show up in weird ways. Like I'm always trying to see like people's reactions, and I love novelty. So like anything that's new. Like I don't like fitting in a box. You can never put me in a fucking box. Like I would lose my mind. Can't stand it when I have to do things like the normal way. Like, I don't want to do that. And I just kind of apply that to everything in my life. Like my kids think I'm crazy. They tell
Good.
me all the
I
time.
like that.
Yeah.
My daughter knows I'm crazy. I don't want to be like everybody else. Because if everybody was else was happy, we'd have that utopian world that I want to create, that I'm searching for. So a couple more questions. We'll get out of here. We're really over, but it's all good. Where do you see yourself and your practice in the next 10 years?
More in person. So I haven't even been showing up on social media the last 3 months. And I needed a break from it. I needed to kind of clear my head and reassess. But I have been doing more in-person stuff, more in-person sessions. And there's just there's something different about being in person. So I think in the next 10 years, I would love to do, yeah, meetups, teaching things in person, seminars, group. I think we heal in groups. I think it's really powerful to do this type of work in groups, even if it's individual work in groups and group work. That's where I see it going.
Well, I'm launching a coaching program within the next month, so we'll invite you in to talk to to everybody. My assumption is be mostly men, but it'll be open to everybody. My routines and rituals and habits work for everybody, but for some reason right now it's so many men. So, is there anything I haven't asked you today that you feel compelled to share?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like we like you said, there's so much more to talk about. So you'll just have to have me back on because I could have this conversation all day.
You have my cell phone. If you end up in Florida or Michigan, let me know. I'm going to be in LA soon. I will hit you up. I want to know more and I want to see more. I want to hear more. And then if there's anything I can do to support you or the listeners can support you, again, what's your Instagram?
Kate Colley.
Yep. Kate, is it Kate underscore Collie?
Yeah. Yeah. I think technically there's two underscores.
It's that simple. How many people reach out to you and say, would you just like the Kate Collie? I get that all the time. Mine's Kelly Siegel, Kelly.Siegel.71. They're like, would you just want Kelly.Siegel? I'm like, nah, I'm good. People know who I am. Thank you for coming on. I see you and I appreciate you and I love you and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Please rate and share this podcast. I'm active on all social platforms and love to hear from my Siegel supporters. Each and every episode is sponsored by my company, National Technology Management, the easiest and best IT company to do business with, delivering peace of mind with technology every day, even simplifying cybersecurity. Visit trustntm.com for more info. Until next week, be harder than life.